Now, in another red light for green engines, Ford says it's scrapping the development of large electric vehicles, predicting a $19.5 billion hit to profits. The company cited falling demand and White House EV policies for the shift in strategy. US President Donald Trump has cut incentives for EV buyers and eased emission rules. Ford says it will now focus on hybrid and gas-powered models as well as small budget EVs. Well, Professor Peter Wells is Director of the Centre for Automotive Industry Research at Cardiff University. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't customers want big electric pickup vehicles?
Well, in a sense, it's not surprising. The way that Ford has executed this particular strategy, they've lined up an electric version of the traditional Ford F-Series truck, and that electric version is heavier, it's more expensive, it has a reduced range, and it can't tow vehicles as well as the traditional petrol-powered F-Series truck. And not surprisingly, consumers look at that and think, well, there's not much incentive for me there. And I think that's the problem. If you think back to what Elon Musk did with Tesla, when they took the electric vehicle market in the US by storm, they created compelling vehicles that customers wanted, regardless of whether or not they were electric, and they were rewarded for that by burgeoning market share and very strong growth. Ford has simply done the opposite.
How much has the easing of the subsidy or the removal of the subsidy by Donald Trump on electric vehicles had an impact? Because we know that Ford is going ahead with the smaller EVs.
Yeah, I think overall the measures taken by Donald Trump have indeed been very damaging because it's all about momentum. Consumers, manufacturers, investors, they all want to see momentum growth going on behind this shift to electric. As soon as you start to slow that down and create obstacles, not surprisingly, people get concerned, consumers don't want to buy anymore, investors get cold feet, and inevitably we see that momentum beginning to fall apart. And that's going to be very damaging for the US industry and for US consumers.
Let's move now to the EU. They are pulling back on that ban, total ban by 2035 on combustion engines. And we're seeing the auto industry, not everyone's happy. I would imagine it really does mess around with your strategies. But how significant is this for the European car industry?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, I think although it looks like a small change, 10% less in terms of the carbon emissions requirements, actually underneath that is quite a profound shift again. It allows continued use of plug-in hybrids. We know from available evidence that those hybrids never deliver the sort of carbon reduction emissions that are required, that people really just use them in petrol or diesel mode. And for some manufacturers, let's take Volvo as a great example, they've really committed down this path on the basis of a decision that was taken only 3 years ago, and now that's being turned back. So I do think there's a massive concern amongst many different players within the industry that this kind of switchback of policy makes forward planning and strategy extremely difficult.
What does it mean then for climate goals? Is it also fairly insignificant, bearing in mind it's just a 10% easing?
No, I think it's much more powerful than that, to be honest. It's partly about the message it sends out, not just to European consumers and European industry, but to the worldwide market and to issues around climate change generally. I mean, what this really says is, yeah, we'll protect our industry. If there's any remote concern about the industry, we'll protect it and we'll put aside the environmental issues. I don't think that's a great message to send, and it goes back on years of EU policy. So I think this is a really important decision, much bigger than would at first appear.
Thank you so much for your time. Much appreciated. That's Professor Peter Wells, Director of the Centre for Automotive Industry Research at Cardiff University.